And I'll call this meeting of the Capital Committee to order Thursday, December 14th, 8:08 a.m. Roll call present this morning. Our ex officio, Brian Turbot, Richard Hussey, Peter Kaiser, Nat Lowell, myself, Peter McEachern, Christy Kickham, and Jason Bridges. Take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, no nays, that's accepted. I am going to ask once again to hold the minutes. I have not had an opportunity to review them. A motion?
So moved. Second.
That's accepted, no nays. There's no...
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I just want to mention, with the new meeting laws, we do have to kind of move along with the minutes.
30 days max.
Whichever one, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted-
Yeah, we looked into it because we didn't want to be in it. We want to observe.
Thank you, Julia.
And just so, I believe, are the drafts on the... Have the drafts been circulated publicly, or?
No.
I didn't know if some meetings it seems like they do that and some they
The
don't.
only meetings I do that for are the permitting boards, pretty much, just Concom and HDC. Those are the only ones that the draft are posted on the website.
Okay.
If someone asks for them, I'll give them to them, but I
Okay.
don't post them on the website.
So if anyone would like our meetings, back in TV land, minutes of our meetings, they are available in draft form through the town minute taker, Terry Norton. Does a wonderful job, by the way. Okay, so no public comment. We're going to move to review outstanding items and issues. I guess I'll give a brief recap on that. We did receive yesterday partial, full responses to some of the questions and from Julia. Thank you, Julia. And we anticipate getting the rest of them.
DPW has said today.
Okay.
So I think that's the bulk of, and sewer had the arrangement so on.
Okay, and Brian, the WANA comments, I didn't see, are they in what you responded with, or you have those separately?
I have those separately. I didn't get called back to another meeting, Mr. Chairman, yesterday, so I'll send those to you right when we get back.
It's fine,
Yep.
yes, as long as we get them all so that I can be prepared
Yep.
for the meeting Monday, which I'm going to bring up something about the Monday
Yep.
meeting in a little bit. I may not be here. So that's the review of the outstanding items and issues. We are going to jump right into our review of the FY19 requests. Let's see, we're going to do the school and DPW transportation in reverse order. And if anyone... All right, so we're on the front of page, the sheet we have about... two-thirds of the way down at maintenance programs and improvement projects, and then on the back side it stops at stormwater. I'm just thinking out loud here. If you want to follow, please do. And school is in the bottom third in the middle half. Yeah, that's kind of right. Okay. So I'd just like to go through this, and I'll list them out. If anyone would like to bring up or discuss any of these requests, just let me know. So we have the annual townwide pavement improvements and the annual multi-use path improvements. All right, I want to just a brief on that. The Sparks Ave sidewalk, Surfside to Milestone, which is under the Complete Streets program. Surfside Lovers, Okra, Monahasset. I have something on that. The Four Corners Mini Roundabout is no longer FY19.
I don't think any of them are.
So.
I mean, I know it was at 20, but there was a...
Transpose the amount, so.
Where are they about?
Okay, I just noticed there wasn't a number, so that's okay that it's not there, if it's still there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'd be news to me. If it got moved, no one told me.
Yeah. And Julie, if you are going to go through the trouble to pull out a number, can you give us the construction number in the out year if they gave us one? Okay, the Bartlett and Surfside Roundabout, the Old South Road corridor improvements. No one on those? Okay. I want to just touch on the way we're going to track those. Oh. You didn't do the printout with the years for the OSR unfolded? Okay. Fairgrounds area roadway improvements. The Waite Drive, Amelia Drive, 2 Fairground and Park and Ride. I guess I'm the only one who's going to ask any questions. Pleasant Street Sidewalk, National Grid, the L8 project. Either the bridges, Massasoit or Millie's. Okay. The school safety security, playgrounds field improvements, and the central office addition.
Yes.
And I guess I'll do the playgrounds because I was asked to follow up on that. So I'll give you some. I've got a meeting scheduled for Monday for that. Okay, great. So we'll start at the top. The annual townwide pavement improvements and the annual multi-use path improvements. The only reason I brought that up is we're waiting for a list of an updated list of the streets and a list of what multi-use paths will be worked on. They're not set in stone, but they are. It gives us an idea of what their kind of rolling priority is. The Surfside Lovers Okra Monahasset improvements. We're going to be out of here in no time.
I got a quick question about that when you're done.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to confirm that this is the final year of the 3-phase.
Excuse me. To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
And just for everyone's knowledge, that should be in fiscal 19. That should be $534,800.
540. I'm sorry. 543.
534,800.
530. Thank you. And I want to make that. And Jason, did you have a?
Yeah, this is. We went over capital projects last night, the select board meeting, and I didn't see the Sparks, the Surfside Lovers Aqua on there. Was it pulled off?
No, it's actually listed as Surfside area roads.
And that was on there last night?
That was on there last night. In the packet that you got last night in the handout,
Okay.
that was, or it was slide 24.
Okay, because one of the board members brought up
Yep.
sidewalks, and I said, and I tried to point out that is including a bike path and road improvements, the whole thing, right?
Right, yeah.
And everybody kind of looked at me like I was crazy, so I thought, all right, maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow at Capcom.
No, it's when the project started in its first phase, when they started the boulevard, it was just called Surfside Area Roads.
Right.
And that name has kind of carried through, and as we've gone into the phases, we've identified more of the area that we were going to be working in.
Right. There was concern last night that there was nothing in the capital projects for bike paths. We want more bike paths and connectors, and so that's why I said there's a lot of things in transportation. Have you seen this big, giant thing we have? It's not all bike paths, but there is some. Just want to make sure that did get pulled out.
No.
The Ocklawaha and the Monahasset, those roads are 40 feet, not 80, like Boulevard was. So there's damage. I think we've got easement and taking stuff is all part of that, right, Ryan? I think. That may have been done already.
If there's any that need to be done that haven't been done, I'm sure it would be programmed in either this or the subsequent construction money, because the 534 is to supplement what we have for the design of that to finish the project.
Yeah.
So these labels don't always convey that there's also multi-use or sidewalk involved, but you had pointed out that that's the case. Okay, that's great. That also makes me think of one that I want to just discuss kind of as a general, which is a sidewalk that's near and dear to our hearts in terms of priorities, which is Prospect Street, which I'll just bring up at some point during the course of this. Four Corners mini roundabout. Julia, what's the number on the?
109,155.
And is there a construction number set?
Gotta be construction number. I'm assuming it's around 2.
In the 2.1, I thought maybe.
Yeah, I think so. We'll have to, I don't know.
Do you recall the year?
It's the following year.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's relevant to
Yeah,
what.
typically, the way that we've tried to structure this, if we're asking for design in 1 year, it would be coming back in the subsequent year for the funding to move forward if everything works the way we hope it does.
Got it. Okay, that's just an important one. I wanted to make sure that didn't fall off our radar. Old South Road corridor improvements. So what you guys don't have in front of you, and it's not on Julia, it's just they're crunched. We're all trying to do our best. Is if you look at, do anyone happen to have the spreadsheet on their tablet? If you do, and you can open the,
Project rankings.
yeah, I'm having a problem with it.
We're on the back page, I'm just trying to.
I'm still,
Where are we? Okay. We keep flipping back and forth.
Mr. Chairman, I do have the spreadsheet, so
Do you have a copy I could look at, because my tablet is not, the Excel is not, Microsoft and Google Android are not playing well together. Oh, it's on your phone.
AirDrop.
I don't think it's even set up. It's like got all these security things built into it for the office. Do you mind if I? Oh, this doesn't show the subgroups either. That's okay.
It gives you the numbers like that.
Oh yeah, no, that's okay. All right, so I want to get into this because it's important for us to understand what's going on here. It's not a matter of supporting the project or not, and it's not a matter of how we write it up, but it's going to be a matter that's going to be coming up in front of us for a few years at the very least, because of the way that the project is being handled. And what it is that it's a single year request, and the work is phased over a certain number of years.
All the way to FY23.
Yes.
This is what it says in here.
Yes. So, all of that's back on the desk. I thought I was going to have a printout. Okay, so what it is that, for instance, there's going to be certain parts of the project that are going to be done before others. And my part of why I wanted to look at it as what year which work is being done is because part of what we do is we're looking at prioritizing things, making requests, making recommendations as to how and when they get done. And I'm not suggesting we usurp the transportation planner or NP and EDC, but we should, we should know what it is we're recommending. And that's why I was looking for the year-by-year breakout. Yeah. Do you mind if I? Thank you, Peter. Saved the day. All right, so okay, so there's two parts to this. Basically, what's going to happen is we'll make a recommendation on the request as a group, and then the work is going to be done, as Brian had just stated, there will be some phases. So FY19, the Milestone Rotary, the Old South Roads Fairground Roundabout, and the Old South Road Reconstruction Rotary to Amelia Drive, design monies will be in place for that work. FY20, design funds will go into place for the Amelia Drive mini roundabout. Then FY21, construction funds will go into place for those 4 projects, and design money will go in for Milestone Road, Nobodere Farm Road. The following year, FY22, the Milestone Road, Nobodere Farm Road intersection will be funded for construction. And the Milestone Road, Monomoy Road, and Pulpus Road intersections design funds will roll out, along with all the Old South Road, Amelia Drive to Young's Way to Lover's Lane, Marianne Drive to Pine Tree Road, and Macy's Lane to Nobodere Farm Road. And what those basically are along from Amelia to Nobodere Farm Road, that there'll be multi-use path work and pull-offs built into the road network, correct?
That's true. Can I just make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Please. I just want to kind of like unwind a little this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We started out with the $15 million placeholder. I think we're getting too technical. For example, I'll give you an example. That Milestone to Pulpus thing, the $3.2 million, the chance of that happening is small. Okay? That's kind of going to be controversial, at least from my perspective, of what people have said, what the reaction was to a roundabout there. We have other roundabouts that are way more, they'll give much more of an improvement. The Monomoy and Pulpus issues are very unique to those weird V sort of, you can tell when the car's coming. We had a long conversation with the people that did this data thing, the third study, for this corridor area. And, I think that, and Brian is really good at explaining this. The 15 million is not borrowed, like poof. It's borrowed as needed, correct? The authorization is given for the 15. Can you give the real technical answer to that?
Well, I kind of like poof, but
Yeah, poof is good. Poof is,
Flubby.
I think it's going to be poof if you don't get too complicated.
sorry.
Not make it worse. This is really not that hard.
No, I mean, should town meeting and it pass at the ballot and give us the authorization to not only borrow the money but exclude it from the levy limit, we don't run out the day after it and borrow it.
Right.
We wouldn't start borrowing until projects actually were started and we had a cash flow need. We go to market as often as we need to. We usually go in June and November. So, and with a project of this scope and magnitude, we would use bands and roll over pieces until they were fully completed, and not go to market and permanently borrow any of this money until such time as we felt it was advantageous to us. So there's no risk that the day after we get all the approvals that we're going to run out and borrow $15 million and put it in our bank. So it's not the way that we operate when we do borrowings for large scale projects.
And again, most of the time, the big ticket items at town meeting are usually one thing.
Correct.
This new multiple sort of yearly is kind of new a little bit.
Which is why we're getting into it, because we've got other things we have to do.
I'm just saying, I don't think we should get into out years and definite on each individual thing as more of priority to say, this is number one, this is number two, this is number three, and use that as a way to go over each thing.
I think I
Is
get
that
you.
part of what- is
Yeah,
that you
and
following me?
I
Like
think
the
so, yeah.
idea to Milestone Roundabout, which is a brand new idea that Betta came up with, to me, is one of the best ideas I've ever heard, other than the bike path on the left side of Sconset Road to Pulpus. Okay? which is an old idea over 20 years ago, and it's never happened.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of, whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of these ideas have been on the books for a while, or in the sort of discussion phases, and then Richmond and the acceptance of a roundabout as a solution by the community,
Uh-huh.
which took time, okay? We tried to fix the Milestone Roundabout 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago. Resounding, what the heck are you doing? This is stupid. All right? Huge. The guy had to leave with a bag over his head from our mile. Now it's like, why haven't we done it yet? That's the way we operate around here. But at the same time, there are some things in here that are sort of not guaranteed to happen. And that the Popus one and the Monomoy one are definitely two things. The stuff along Old South Road is some of it's part of Richmond, and some of it is sort of plug in the gaps, like the Amelia to Young's, and then Young's to Lovers is sort of something that's been discussed for a long time, and it hasn't happened way before Richmond. And now it's sort of risen back up because of Richmond. That's all. I'm just trying to kind of give you
No, I appreciate it.
You don't come to those meetings, but you're on the planning board as an alternate, but you're not at the planning commission meeting. But this stuff comes up at planning board. It
No, I know, I
depends
listen.
on what the
I-
discussion is.
I listened to the NPDDC stuff.
Okay, so that's all I'm saying. I think the placeholder, Brian's points, and kind of making some sort of rank, sort of pretend it's a loader and a skid steer and all that, and kind of put it in that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Say, okay, this may not happen, but we want that placeholder in. Some of these RFPs, I mean, the procurement part might lower some of these individual prices. I mean, these are estimates. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I
we
mean-
haven't put anything on the books out to bid yet.
Well, we don't even have any money to design them, so,
Yeah.
I mean, right now we have planning level design
Yeah.
numbers, so.
Yeah. So we're just trying to get sort of jump start and use the placeholder thing as a way to get these things sort of in the queue. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, do you want us to kind of rank these and move things around, out
No.
years and stuff?
No, I think what I'm looking at is a couple of things here. One is, I think we all get. I appreciate what Nat's saying because it's important to have the background from the other boards. That's part of why we're all involved here, so that we can bring information to the table. I am not necessarily. I'm not suggesting that we go through these and rank them individually as opposed to one another. I mean, that's been done by the NPDDC. I do think, on the other hand, if there were work in here that we felt was not worthy of a recommendation for funding, then we should single it out and take it out. I'm not suggesting that there is something that isn't worthy of funding. I'm just saying that's part of our job, and we need to keep track of the fact that whether this is transportation, or if this was a stormwater project, or if this was something to do with the sewer, that it could be presented in a similar way as one project with one fund. It's really kind of like a pre-authorization in a sense, not in a municipality finance term sense, but we don't have. It's an estimate of multiple projects. So I get that. I don't have an issue with the concept, but we do need to keep track of the fact, one, our responsibility is to go through and review them individually, so that we know that we're, and I think we're good there. I think everyone's had an opportunity to do that. But we also, I think the more important thing for me in keeping these separated and having a planet number is we need to be able to track the actual. This isn't going to be a $50 million project that gets put out to bid. It's going to be
Individual.
It's going to be 11. If all 11 get done, there's going to be 11 projects, and we need to be aware of that. And the reason I brought it up is because we haven't been really seeing it in a cost breakdown by the year it's intended to happen. So, for instance, we have 11 projects spanned out over 3 years. Some years there's 3 things happening. Some years there's 1 thing happening. So I wanted just to introduce everyone to that concept because I was drilling down into the data, because that's how it's going to be brought back to us to review it. So this is kind of like a groundwork on how we're going to be looking at this in the future when these projects actually get implemented. It's not going to be one thing that says OSR and it's this much money. I don't think it's good for transparency. I don't think it's good for financial, the integrity of the planning process or the tracking process and doing our jobs. So that's my kind of strong feeling on it in terms of an integrity of process. We can do it, however the group decides to do it, but I think we need to be able to track them individually. I did speak to Brian, and he understands that concern, and he shares it. I think it's fair to say that, you are going to be tracking these individually.
Yeah, I mean, we track them. We'll be tracking them all individually because they'll all be issued individual purchase order numbers, and contracts will be tied to them. So we track them individually, and we have to track them that way anyway. Excuse me. We have to track the overall cost against the overall authorization, but we'll track them on the individual project level just because that's the way our system is set up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. And then thank you, Brian. I think just in terms of the projects themselves and the timeline, as a member of this committee who's looking at priorities, and as opposed to ranking these relative to one another, my only concern is that FY19, we've got 3 projects going out for design, and the construction money isn't anticipated for funding until FY21. The only thing in FY20 is another design, which is a small roundabout. And as a layman sitting in this chair, I wonder why we're not doing all 4 designs in FY19 versus straddling years, and then moving the work up to FY20, and then we get all the tar and the other type of work that's being done, road work done in that one area, done approximately during the same period. So that's the only concern I have about how it's laid out in front of us, other than I do want to respond to something Nat had said, because I think it's important for anyone who's listening to be clear. We're in a sense, we're pre-authorizing the $15 million for a scope of work based upon estimates that are based upon designs that have been done, not by an engineering firm, but they've been done conceptually by our planner and a group that came to the island for that purpose. So these aren't just swag numbers. These are, well, I guess they're a more refined swag number. They're not just a guess. They're it's scientifically advanced based on our transportation planner taking the time and all the work that's gone into these and actual concept drawings. So it's not just a number that's been kind of arbitrarily selected. And if something doesn't get done, for instance, Milestone Road to the Pulpus Road, I think that's the one you mentioned, Nat?
Yes.
Again, the money isn't actually borrowed until it's borrowed. So it's been authorized, the work's authorized in advance, but the taxpayer isn't encumbered until work is actually done. I don't know where to go with it. I mean, I'm thinking just when we talk about our rankings and evaluations, I actually was going to ask before then, now that I'm looking at these numbers, that we get some clarification on if that there's only one thing being designed in FY20 for $55,000. Why wouldn't we move it up? I mean, and there may be a reason. I'm not suggesting there isn't, but get clarification as to why we wouldn't move it up to FY19, get all the design done for a particular area at once, and then move up all the construction work for those areas a full fiscal year is that's the question I'm going to have. Do you want to
I
say?
think in general, they're just, so you're talking just timing in general for example.
Yeah, it's just,
You
yeah.
have to transportation planner, these things, I think, there's some question about timing in general. It's not as easy as 1, 2, 3.
No.
That's my impression, because I'm sure people have experience.
I mean, you can't build 2 schools at once or 2 fire stations. I mean, this place is hard. And I don't think we need to get that detailed, Steve. I just don't, personally. I don't think we need to get that deep into this. As far as when it's more about as I think Jason said, 2023. Is that what you did say that?
Yeah, FY23.
FY23. I mean, it's going to be a 6, 5, 7
Mike Burns
years.
is saying 5 years.
we've been trying to build a fire station
Yeah,
for
okay.
14 years now.
So now-
I mean, it's just difficult. I mean, but I think instead of it being like, let's just say Richmond wasn't happening. I mean, you got me into this, so I got to say a different way to explain what I'm trying to say. We would still be talking about most of these things right now, okay? But it would be one roundabout at a time. Which one's on the tip? Which one's going to be, which one are we writing a check for? Which, technically, the tip one right now is Bartlett to Surfside, just so you know. So then all of a sudden we add this little muck path, or we add this sidewalk improvement into this, and it would become like one thing, one thing, one thing. This lumping it is due to the time that we've not done anything and all the new development and the new tax money, Brian, which is important. I know we're not talking about that, but it is a good point, is to get these things done because the seasonal population wants it done. I mean, people starting to get angry that we're not fixing anything. And so that's why you see it all in this pile.
Yeah, Nat, you're missing.
I'm just saying.
You're
that's
not.
all I'm saying.
You're not. I'm failing to communicate. I'm not doing a good job. I'm not questioning whether it should all be done. My preference is that if the town is going to do it, we do it sooner than later. What I'm trying to determine is if there's look. This isn't two schools. We're not talking about building two schools at once. What I'm talking about is it's more like Prospect Street.
Oh.
We're putting town water here on this day, and a year later we're coming back, we're putting in water, and we're paving it 3 times. That's what I'm talking about with this. We have work, Old South Road reconstruction, Rotary to Amelia Drive. Design work is going to happen FY19, according to what I have in front of me. Rotary to Amelia Drive, Old South Road. The very next year, Old South Road, Amelia Drive mini roundabout. So we're doing 2 things in one area over 2 years that's the same scope of work in terms of design. I would just like to understand why we're not doing it the same year. After that, I would like to understand why we're not just moving our target date for construction up a year for all those things we designed. As Brian said, we're trying to do design 1 year, construction the next. In these 3 instances, with the Milestone Rotary reconstruction, the Fairgrounds Road roundabout, and the Rotary to Amelia Drive, we're doing the design work, at least as it's presented to us, 1 year, and then we're waiting 2 years to do the construction. I'm trying to move it up. I'm trying to understand why we're not moving it up. That's all. I'm not looking at, should this be done a different way in terms of funding, or should these be prioritized individually or taken out? That's not what this discussion is about.
Well,
So what the question will be is there a structural reason with respect to the planning, Mike's process and the design process and the construction process, that these are separated out, and then construction is put off a year? So that's all I'm going to ask them. I mean, we're having a lot of discussion about something that we don't need to be discussing. I think
Mr. Chairman,
at this
do
point.
you think we could just get an email clarification from Mike Burns?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
And then throw in some questions. I mean, personally, I'd like to see all the Old South, the last 3 things, moved ahead of Milestone. Get Old South done first, and then
Yeah.
Milestone, there might be some state funding there. This is definitely unconventional, right? It's not one big project.
Yeah.
But I think for the strategic plan and the select board's really pushing transportation. So I think everybody's come and said, okay, you want this, here you go. Here's a giant project with all these little ones. It's unconventional. I'd like to give some flexibility to the planners because they know more than we do
Sure,
on
yeah.
how to do it.
Yep.
But we also have to understand it as well. So there's kind of that balance of.
Yeah, I agree. I think we could get some information on it, and I think you bring up a good point. For instance, Nat, you said the Milestone Popus might not happen. That's scheduled out in 22, 23. But we're going to be working on Old South Road either in 20 or 21, but we're not doing any of the additional road work or the pull-offs until actual construction in 23. So just following up with what Jason said is, I think it seems to me, as a citizen who uses these roads, that the Old South Road stuff is way more important than the Milestone Road, Pulpus Road, or the Monomoy Road intersection.
Well, I think I said that already.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is
different
that
way.
all I'm talking
Yes.
about is in our recommendation, we
Yeah.
can discern between what we would like to see.
And the Old South to Fairgrounds is tied into Old South as far as, an improvement is connecting to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the way
Plus,
it's,
that's the fire station drove that a little bit, other than
Yeah.
just growth. The fire station moving over there was also part of that discussion when it first came up back in, 5 years ago or whenever it was. Plus, we have the land, so that was an easy one, because we already have everything. We don't need to do
Yep.
anything, actually. No damage awards or anything. But I just, I don't know if we're going, I just don't want to get too detailed to beyond what we should be. At the same time, Mike should have been asked to come here today if we were going to get into this level, because it's kind of hard to answer these questions.
well,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah, I didn't anticipate we were going to get into this.
You know?
It's kind of devolved in a sense that what I was hoping to do was just go through, point out the fact that we have, this is a new animal, how I'm proposing we track it, because we do need to track it. That's part of what we do, is review these things in out years past. We didn't do it much this year because of we're trying to put in a new system into place. And then we got into a little bit more detail than I had hoped. But I do want to also say that this isn't a level of detail that I'm anticipating that we're presenting to anyone.
Okay.
This is a level of detail for our internal workings and understanding, and helping us to form a recommendation so that, we all feel comfortable about what it is we're supporting and endorsing. And personally, I would like to know if, maybe it's just my preference as a citizen, but if there's going to be work done on Old South Road, I'd rather have it all designed in 1 year and all done the following year, even if it costs us more money, as opposed to having having 3 years of construction along Old South Road. And I think it's within our purview to be reviewing that and making comments on that, and working with, this is like any other project, and working with, through town manager and finance on how to get an outcome that meets the goals of the selectmen and the strategic plan, which include these things like which will happen along Old South Road, which are the multi-use paths and the pull-offs. Why wait till 2023? Why not do them when the other work's being done?
Stephen, just one comment. Whenever you're doing major work on, say, a rotary or an intersection, you rely on those intersections around it to help you filter traffic. Might have something to do with Mike's thought, but
Well, that's
Just
the thing. I appreciate that, Chrissy. But the thing is those are all the intersections that are adjacent are actually part of the ask for the same year. The things that aren't part of the ask for the same year are the smaller things like pull-offs and multi-use paths.
Yeah.
So I think look, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I just would like to get some information and see if we can advance some of these things so that we're doing them in a way that we haven't, so it's not like the Prospect Street water, sewer, and road work. That's all. Are you okay with that now?
Yes, and I don't, yeah, that's.
I mean, you understand what I'm trying to do?
I do. I think that the Prospect example is unique because
It is.
similar to what's going on right in front of Cumberland Farms right now. I mean, hello?
Yeah.
Are we kidding? Like, this is unbelievable. And I'm not going to get into why that's happening, because now I know. It took me a little while to find out. But
Subcontractor?
no, it's it's
Just a show.
trying to do a lot, but not knowing how much it was going to really be. That shutting down those roads is hard. Theoretically, it's easier to close down half of Old South than it is Easy Street, or than it is
Yeah.
because
I
there's
know.
no other way.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy to say it because you think, oh my God, Old South Road, look how busy. Yeah, but you can kind of go this way and go that way easier. So I get what you're saying, Steve, but the old sewer and some of the crazy stuff downtown in the sort of ROH district is where my issue came up with Prospect.
Yeah.
This is different out here.
Yeah,
You know
the-
what I mean? It's, I just
the
don't
example
see
I'm
the
u-
same thing.
The example I'm using for Prospect is not about the specific details of the sewer and the water. It's just about,
It's
Are we
three
doing-
birds at one stone? I
yeah,
know
can
what
we
you're
try
saying.
and kill this all
Yeah.
at once? And
Yeah.
and then I'm also saying, just in terms of convenience for people, if
Yeah.
we're going to be working on Old South Road, they're going to be doing Richmond construction, there's going to be Waits Road work going on. Can we at least ask if, in terms of the priorities in the transportation, that those can be consolidated? And they may say it absolutely cannot be because of X, Y, and Z. We've done our due diligence, we asked the question, that's all. That's always good.
The Amelia Drive mini roundabout, that's kind of not 1,000% agreed upon either. There's some other issues there. We got takings, we've got widenings. There's 100 different ideas.
No, I know, that's
It's
a
like,
whole nother.
You know, should we make it one way? Should we make it one way in the summer? Put a bag over the sign in the winter? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on to figure out what we do with Amelia Drive problems.
Yeah, the egg hasn't
This
even
is
been
not
hatched on
perfect.
that.
They put that in because it would work, but we could end up getting,
Would have been a good plan to
you
begin
know,
with.
No parking.
inebriated on roundabouts at the moment. You know what I'm saying?
It's cheaper.
Anyway,
So,
I'm done. Thank you.
does anyone not support the concept of getting some clarification as to whether the Old South Road work can be condensed, and maybe the design work can be condensed and the work moved up?
Fair question, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
I don't want to make a big deal of it, but I would like to just.
No, it's actually a simple question.
Yeah, okay. We got a little.
I think a quick email can solve that.
Yeah. And again, it's not about what gets presented at
Uncle.
town meeting. This is about how we work and what information we get. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Nat, I appreciate that.
Can you now?
Fairgrounds area roadway improvements, Waite Drive, Amelia Drive, 2 Fairground Roads. Nat, I just wanted to ask you what, you just kind of touched on it, but it's an egg that hasn't been hatched. It's more of a, I mean, it's a concept of a concept at this point, which I don't have an issue with.
Which thing now is a concept?
The
Waite Drive?
Waite Drive.
Waite Drive's a definite.
No, I understand
Oh.
that. I'm just saying in terms of the design and
Oh,
we don't
oh.
have anything on it. So I was looking to you for
well,
a little bit of information as well. That's all.
I think I lost my battle on angle parking. I think it's going to be,
Parallel,
I think so, yeah.
both sides street.
I think definitely that direction side, that would be east, southeast,
You know,
is going to be the parking. I think there's going to be, I think a lot of it is going to be built into the width and the fact that the traveled way width is going to be X. It's going to be one way, so there's going to be be able to have parking on both sides as it's designed. It may not have it at the beginning section on the left before you get to the left turn into Tacoma Green, or whatever we're going to really call it. But after that, it may have parking on the left. It may not. I don't know the answer to that question.
and have you discussed connecting
But the
it
one way
through
to
to
Old
Amelia?
South has been the
to Old
the big
South will
one.
connect?
yeah,
Yeah, will connect, you think?
yes.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys know,
so.
but what we're talking about is, without getting into any of the other stuff that's involved in it, is just because it's not necessary. Is over here from behind behind this building, there's a road laid out in part that goes from Tacoma Way towards, parallel to Fairgrounds, towards Old South.
So it's between.
And it ends in a cul-de-sac at this point on paper and in dirt, but the discussion is to make a connector from Tacoma to Old South to alleviate additional pressure that's related to development that's going on in the area, both planned and lots that aren't developed and so on and so forth.
And ancillary parking for like
And-
the little work trailer people stuff, or something that someone ends up with inevitably. Out of 64 units, there's going to be 3 of those probably. If somebody's going to have something that they have to park somewhere,
Right.
it's
and
not
that-
going to be in their 80, whatever number of spaces that are going to be on site. So that's the reasoning behind linking it into the existing parking that's still not formalized. There's more land for parking that's going to end up getting moved. There's a lot of future things that are going to happen with the 2 Fairgrounds area side of this property.
Right.
That building's probably gonna go away, move forward, all of a sudden you get all this land again. Stuff's gonna change.
Yeah.
Over time.
So this road, what it does in this design concept is it's kind of like a preempting traffic, which is kind of refreshing and nice, and dealing with parking issues in relation to Nat's mentioning the work trailers and things is from the Community Housing Initiative, which is 6 Fairgrounds Road.
How would you
And-
get out?
Pardon me?
How would you get out to connect to Old South?
Not sure how that's
They're not sure yet.
figured out. I think that they know what that is. I don't have the answer personally.
It's
Nor do I.
yeah.
No,
it's-
but.
Oh, looking
it's-
at the-
But,
Yeah.
but Waite Drive is, part of the,
So-
this is, again, we're asking questions without staff,
yeah.
and we're going beyond ourselves a little bit. This
Well,
is
no,
kinda getting a
Nat,
little-
you keep saying that, and I got to disagree with you kind of firmly. This is not.
But
we're
where's
not getting
staff?
We're not getting
There's
into.
no one here. It's hard to answer every question, Steve.
But we're not. I'm not asking you
I'm
to
just a
answer
guy
every
that's
question.
donating his time. and
I don't
trying-
want
and
you to
cares.
answer every question. I was just asking you to give everybody a little bit of an idea of what it was,
Yeah.
because we didn't have an opportunity when we spoke to Mike for whatever reason.
Waite Drive was.
You've done a great job. You told us kind of what it is. Everybody has a sense of what it is, right? There's no. Okay, so
I
that's all it
believe
was.
it goes to the current lot that
You're
quote,
too
unquote,
sensitive.
came from the flipping of the vehicles in the summer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I believe it's gonna connect to the existing entrance next to Islander, I think. Which everybody, by the way, over there in those two businesses is using them town parking for their own benefit, which I think is great, by the way,
Yeah.
because that's what we're supposed to be doing. But I believe that that's how it's gonna be laid out.
Thank
Okay,
you.
but don't quote me.
We're-
Don't hold me down to the fire. This isn't 1970 pencil and paper. I don't know. I
There's-
don't know every detail of it, but I
There's-
believe that that's the plan.
There seems to be a propensity in this town that if someone asks something or you talk about something that you might be trying to shoot it down, or you're like, this is just general information for the group so we understand what we're doing. Richard?
What's the total cost?
I don't have
We
it on
had
my
that
sheet.
number in there. It's 1.4 something.
Is it 1.4?
1.8.
1.8, is it?
1.8 is
And that's,
one-
We're gonna get 400 from Affordable Housing Trust.
yes, and that's partly for Amelia's
That's included.
Stuff.
Correct?
something, whatever we do there.
Okay, we're getting $400,000 this year from the Affordable Housing Trust.
Sorry, we're a little out of control here, Brian. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Well, he asked the question, that's the answer.
No.
That we know the answer to.
And we're gonna borrow the rest.
No, it's 1.3, where is it on my sheet? 1.314. We're getting $400,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust, and we will, I believe it's using free cash for the other, I have to review all these funding sources because I think some of them didn't link right, but I believe we're using free cash for the other $900,000 this year, and then we will go through the process next year and identify the funding source for the remaining 4 or 5, whatever the number is, 477, or what, yeah. And it could be some combination of Affordable Housing Trust and the town complementing each other in the funding source. So,
So borrowing on our spreadsheet.
yeah,
is
that's
wrong.
why I don't think it's linking correctly because
All right.
I'm not anticipating borrowing that money.
Okay. Thank you. Richard, you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Thoughts or? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nat. I appreciate
No,
it.
I'm just
I
doing the
appreciate
best I
you.
can.
No, you're doing great, and your patience
No
with me
suit
is
and tie here,
outstanding.
trying.
We're going to jump over to school. The playgrounds and field improvements came up. I was asked to look into, we discussed, and I was asked to look into that this was initially a phased, let me look at my notes.
I remember this.
It's all
This was
part
our
of it. It was
first
all
meeting.
part of the plan.
Yeah.
Three-year plan?
All right, so the first year it came in, it was, we thought the number was low, and it wasn't labeled as a phased plan. So we funded it thinking that that was it, and now it's a phased plan for this year and next year for a lot more money. So we just wanted to, I'm going to actually meet with the facilities director, Diane O'Neill, on Monday, if I'm here, and just kind of get a quick reconciliation of it so that we're clear. And I can report back on that, and I'm sure it's not an issue, but I did want to mention it. Central Office Edition?
Yeah, my only comment, I think I brought it up when they were here, is when we built the new building, we made a strong pitch, not an assumption, that it would house, all the new structures would house everything we need, and that we would have space available in NES. And now we find out there are outside groups renting in NES, which obviously has a revenue attached to it. But for this committee to agree to spend $500,000 on an addition, I think we need to know what sort of rent that is, and if the rent is de minimis, then tell your occupant to go somewhere else, and we should take that space instead of spending another $500,000. That's my point. And I also had made the comment that the special services director in that department should be, in my mind, closer to the high school or in a school building.
That was the point that I got out of that, what you just said. The location of the superintendent, that level, they were discussing, as I recall, being towards closer to the high school or in the high school versus way down there at the elementary school, right? Isn't that part of this discussion?
Well,
I remember him saying something like that.
Michael and his team, Martin et al. Are in, and Diane are in the
old
First Way, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing,
This was going to take the special services department, some of those people that are now in the high school, take them out and put them into a larger structure. And that's why I asked about, well, I knew we had all thought in time that a lot, even the admin, would go to NES because we don't have, mandated universal, pre-K yet. It's not here, so we have empty space. We have space that's not being used. We also talked about, could you take some of the excess space in the kitchen, because now you're preparing meals for a lot less kids. There's some found space and NES, and we also, I think I asked, could you, utilize the NIS cafeteria, which I helped design, which could probably feed the entire town. That's anecdotal. That's anecdotal. In help. So I think we've already built it. I think it's just really a new distribution or reallocation of existing space instead of us spending $500,000.
The other thing is the permanent factor. Is this it? Like the old teen center thing? I mean,
I thought it was it before the $500,000.
Yeah, that's what I got.
I mean, I'm wondering what do we do? Is this because like the steamship's doing this temporary $12 million building, and now it's like, oh, why don't we keep it? What are we doing with this? Is this going to be until we potentially get some of the land in between? Is this going to be something else? Because he's got good planning skills.
No, and
he tells us what he's really doing.
As Michael said,
I just didn't.
If we continue to grow and our students and our population continue to grow, the next growth would cause us to more than likely cull out of CPS 2 grades or maybe 3, put them into a new building and take that whole edifice and make it the high school.
Right. No, that's
yes. We all heard that.
That makes complete sense. Like, I get that flipping the baseball field thing. I got that all down. But I guarantee you they have some kind of plan for this building. If admin people move to other real school buildings, something else is going to happen here probably that's going to have money coming in for something. Whether it's community school stuff or something will happen. Maybe they're fixing this because they feel the building is solid enough to keep for later things. Because it is a good building. There's nothing wrong with it. I've been underneath it. It's not rotted. It doesn't have the bad. They fixed the crawl space.
You're talking about the admin.
I'm talking about the building that they want to add on to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not a paper building like NES. Yeah. It's not bad under there.
Yeah,
Solid.
It's solid.
It was
Good.
built. So, Peter, do you feel, would you like clarification to the level that you could send me a quick email with your questions or send them to Brian? For this, if you send them to me, I can bring them with me Monday when I meet with them.
Well, I'd ask Brian. I mean, looks like town administration is 3%, so I don't think the thought process is far from what we're thinking, or what I'm thinking. So,
No, but I just-
Yes, I can.
If you, I mean, the way this is shaking out in the bigger picture view that I'm looking at, having watched the selectmen's meeting last night, there aren't many things that there's maybe one project request that came up that wasn't something that they really wanted to fund. So I anticipate this will be part of a positive recommendation, at least it is already with the town admin. I presume it will carry through the Board of Selectmen. So at our level, I just want to know if you want more information so you feel comfortable making a recommendation one way or the other.
No, I'm fine to make a recommendation now.
With what we have.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's fine. Okay.
Let's put it in the operating budget. No.
Which enterprise fund?
Yeah, Steve, just on that.
Yeah, Richard, please.
Peter, I think your experience as part of the building committee and your answer to the whole conceptual plan for office space for everybody is important.
Yeah.
I mean, that totally changes how I view this.
Yeah.
Well, in conjunction with this concept of the rental, which I hadn't connected, is that, I understand they're doing some programs there and they're generating, and I understand that there's benefits, community benefits beyond a revenue stream, even if it is de minimis. But how does that, has it been weighed? I guess the question is, have those benefits, the rent and other, been weighed against the costs of doing this, and not just the dollar cost, but also if you are going to be putting in administrative personnel who community members feel generally should be within the boundary of the physical school itself, as opposed to in an outbuilding. So that's why I thought it might be important to ask the questions that you give me a different perspective on it too. I'll bring it up and ask them when I'm there.
I'm there a lot.
You are? Okay. We're just cooking right through this stuff. So we have, we've completed that. If there's, I did want to kind of just take a look, our portion of it. Under the priority overlays, we don't have any for the transportation. And we don't have any for the school. We do have phase funding for the Bacchus Lane fields. How are we reconciling in terms of rankings, Brian? I don't know if you have a full, or Julia, on this. The central office edition is a 3%, yet it's been recommended, and ours is at 24, yet it's being recommended for funding.
No, it's actually not being recommended for funding. Town
This is
recommendation
none.
is 0.
Oh, we filled that. Oh, thank you for filling that in.
Yeah, it wasn't on the sheet last night.
We're not. That was not recommended for funding this year.
I love those short, succinct answers. Thank
That
you
was
very
a
much.
good, quick one, wasn't it?
was good.
0.
I didn't even see we filled those in
All in favor,
today's
say aye.
printout.
Jesus. Guess that was simple.
And are there any that
I don't mind listening.
you've suggested?
I didn't see the 0
The only
either.
other difference I see is
I'm
in
looking at the reg.
Parks and Master
It's 3.
Services. The request was for 100, I believe, for funding 50.
Okay. Okay, good. Yes, Peter.
Just looking at the presentation that was made to the BOS last night, it's good to see that that someone recommended that we at least look at putting some funding and placeholders in future years for the Wilk Square redevelopment. So I think then that is important, because that's going to help collectively everyone here, not just this committee, everyone on the island. Because that would be a, if we don't get a whiff of what that cost would be, even if it is another whatever number of years out, I think it's doing it a disservice.
Thank you.
And also, since he just brought something up like that, Brian, can I ask this question without, I don't want to sound, beyond my capability of thinking here, but that school land issue, I want to just bring that back. We didn't have an article for that, but do we have one this year? for that play,
I
the money
honestly have
thing, having
no
money
idea what
aside, you-
school land issue you're talking
No,
about.
they don't.
Yes,
You're
you
talking
do.
about the Bacchus Lane
No,
land bank?
no. He knows what I'm talking about. The land, the potential funding for land in between the properties that comes available where we can just go bang and buy it.
No, we have no recommended funding.
Oh, I know, you
Michael,
should.
should be
School
doing
had
that.
made a
First way on.
recommendation for,
Yes, I
Yeah.
thought we had an article. Didn't we have something?
No.
No?
We have talked about
We
doing
talked
it,
about it. I know that.
but
'Cause that
Excuse me.
is like something we need to do. So, hello, just so you know.
so did the school ever make a formal recommendation, Brian, for that through the capital process?
for what?
For the, a fund, authorization for funding in the event that land becomes available that serves the school property, and therefore the town?
Well, there's been discussions administratively, internally during the process about whether we should consider doing it. I
But
don't
they-
think that anybody necessarily thinks that it's a bad idea, but for me, in any of the discussions, it's putting money aside when we have admittedly many capital projects to be funding and taking the
No, we have
available
to borrow
resources
to
and
do
putting
that.
it aside and waiting for a undetermined length of time before we'd ever have to use it when, again, going back to admittedly, everybody knows we have many capital projects that we need to get completed and we would like to get completed. So I think that the focus has been to try to get those requests funded to the extent possible, and if an opportunity came up, we'd have to explore it, and it may require a special town meeting and a borrowing authorization or something like that. But I think our focus has been on trying to alleviate the backlog of capital projects and in maintenance. I mean, I think, we have a Board of Selectmen member on the committee, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been very clear in their goal of maintaining infrastructure and getting these things done.
Okay.
So that, yeah, I get it. So you're saying basically that doing this decreases our capacity to do the things we want to do sooner because, well, just a second. Because, and because the land, although the land is identified, there really hasn't been, and no one who owns the land has said, hey, we're willing to do anything. So it's something that could happen, but it's not.
Well, I
within
mean,
the
we would have
foreseeable
to,
future.
I mean, the only way that you could
Just trying to
do,
understand that.
the only way you could set aside it would be to set aside free cash, because we couldn't go to town meeting and ask for borrowing authorization with no knowledge of what we have to borrow or what we're borrowing it for.
Right.
Okay? We can't do that. So the only real option to set is taxation or free cash. So it would be, in my, sitting where I sit, with the amount of projects we do, if we do that, then we're forced to borrow for capital projects that we have a funding source available to us immediately, or delay them another year. That's the only thing that's kind of think internally where we've been coming from, given what we've been hearing.
Okay, I
Thank you.
didn't mean to get that
Yeah.
deep, Brian. What I was
Okay.
really trying to say is the opportunity fund. The town can't write a check. You just saw what happened with the little NISDA thing, okay? You'd think that was buying, the works.
But we had a special town meeting and we reappropriated.
But it was complicated. That didn't just happen. There was a whole year of arguing to get that to happen, trust me. So what I'm saying is, the real estate fund could be used for that if that gets built back up again. I'm just saying, when one of those pieces of land is on the market and we can't fix it, like Poets Corner, that had to be done privately. The thing with Gail Charette's had to be kind of wiggled around and made happen. These are things that we need to be able to have an answer when this stuff pops up, and it will pop up. Just trust me. It's going to happen. Somebody will want to sell, and we'll be going, oh, can we find some money? God, we got to get this. And then we can't do it because we can't do things like that. It's hard for the town to do that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree with you. But I'm just telling you the alternative is, you know what, when we try to get it, it's on the market. When Poets Corner went on the market, Everybody went haywire that understood that we needed that dirt on the right side of the road to fix that intersection.
I think, Nat,
So you know.
I recall the discussion now, and part of it was with kind of
Diane brought it up. as far
part
as
of the
I
discussion
remember.
was that if the school was going to further that one of the things they could look into was what the cost of an option of a right of first refusal would be on the property.
Okay.
So that would preclude this last second dance by, if the property owner was interested in purchasing, in selling to the town, there'd be a right of first refusal. I mean,
Okay,
we
well,
didn't get
that's
into a
good.
lot of detail about it, but I know I brought it up because
All right, well,
now
that's a
that
great idea,
you're
though.
bringing,
I don't remember that.
bring
I
it
might
to
have missed that
the
meeting.
forefront. Because that contract could address the time period that the town would have to both stipulate that it is interested and it will act on it, and then the time period that it has to actually make the appropriation and get the funds and purchase it. So it could be addressed that
Yeah.
way.
Where a property owner knows that they might not get paid in 2 seconds.
Right,
Which
exactly.
is, you're saying, right? Is that what that means, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'd be
So that's
compensated
good,
for
that's
it.
perfect. Then we should do that. That doesn't cost us anything.
So there's an option there.
Okay.
Christie,
Sorry.
I apologize.
No, that's all right. I was just going to, it's just a comment. I recall Michael saying that would be their next step. There was nothing in place. The question came up about those properties, and he said, one option that we could do is this. So I think it's good forethinking, but I also think I'm going to leave it up to the school to determine when that is, but that's, so I don't think there's anything planned on that, so.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think
We can
left
let them
it-
know we're really excited about it, though, but whatever happens.
We left it with them to kind of advance the matter and
Yeah.
discussion. Okay. Very well. So I guess the only thing I need to get a handle on before we wrap up is outstanding matters with respect to the worksheet, the summary sheet. You guys are going to go through and update any of the imminent threat or legal requirement?
Yeah, I mean, so imminent threat and legal requirement, we sort of talked about yesterday with Libby and Brian, and, OIH was really the only one, and ADA accessibility issues on the DPW facility side. Those are the only two that we identified as
We call it imminent threat, too.
So ADA under facilities DPW.
right, knowing that that's sort of occurring as we discussed.
Yes.
You mentioned it's sort of occurring as the work gets done.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Okay, and you've marked those.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then imminent threat, legal requirement, phase funding. So you already gone through and did the ones you believe are for phase funding too and everything.
The only other one I thought about, I don't know how Brian feels about this, but the only other one was the funding related to the bridges. Only because I was on the Bridge Road, and I realized that when it gets closed, it's a problem. So if the work doesn't get done, and it gets closed, again,
Bear Farm Road's no fun.
it's not.
Insane. Not even
Well,
an option.
I guess on the,
Policy discussion.
no, I understand, and citizen input's important too. On the imminent threat side of it, I guess the question I would have is, I haven't been out to either one of those bridges in a while. Nantucket's a long
It's not
road.
an imminent threat, it would just be, I would assume, a legal requirement at some point. But maybe, there's obviously a gray line of what exactly is legal.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's like a gray colored question mark there. Okay.
I think it may fit into the phase funding, because if I remember correctly, within the original DPW reset or whatever we want to call it, I think there was in and out year
Yes,
funding
and I have to go back
for
and-
reconstruction. So I think we probably would label those as phased funding as well.
Both bridges?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then, yes, please, Peter.
For airport, temporary hold room expansion, I don't know if it worked yet, but I know that there was going to be a capacity issue, if there wasn't already, that the that we could have some legal ramifications from. So I don't know, again, I mean, with legal, it's kind of a gray area, but that was another one that I recalled being high up on his priority because they could
Yes.
face some
Yeah,
serious
that's good.
issues.
Good call.
That's a good
Yep.
call, yep. Temporary hold room. Okay.
From an email that you received yesterday and a discussion with the airport, that number is likely to go up.
Right.
Okay.
We don't have a sense, yet.
Is that because they may have to change from
I have no-
Eisenine curtains and
Their
aluminum
number one priority.
to something
Yeah.
else?
Massage chairs.
New building?
So, just bear with me, I want to hit, before we get out of here, we're going to get out early, I want to see, Julia, you sent, do you have on your phone, the email with the outstanding matter updates? Just if we could walk through those quickly now, it would be easier to, bear with me a minute, guys. Do you think you have it? Or do you have it? Okay, that'd be great.
Email that Julie sent out.
I apologize, I thought we might get a printout, I didn't print it. My misunderstanding. Yes. Okay, so just to tick a couple of things off the list, the Sparks Ave under sewer, we did receive the GIS-based map of the work area from David, which was very helpful. Very, very minor thing, appreciate it. We asked for backup on the building and foundation utilities, which David hadn't presented because it was actually a 2018, fiscal 18 request. So something had been presented previously. But he indicates he's giving us a cost for a plan and is hoping to maybe get the concrete crew that is on site doing the surf side to give him quotes when the plan is done. So I guess I just don't recall what the project is. The building and foundation utilities for the building. So I just was hoping we got some information on it, is really what I was looking for.
Is that for the, it's for the modular building that they have, to site it there. To put it on a foundation and run.
Oh, okay, so
the
that
utility.
they had a modular office type building?
Yeah, there's two of we relocated both of them from the school. One of them is planned eventually, I think, to be relocated to the DPW temporarily while we work through this whole project, what that's going to look like. And the other one is going to reside at the sewer facility.
Okay, and Peter, did you?
I was going to say, Peter and I,
Yeah.
sorry, Richard and I, we met with David in that one, actually.
Yep.
The one that they're proposing to put the foundation under and that they're using as admin right now is pretty banged up. I mean, they're making do, but.
Yeah.
Is
I
it-
think what we didn't have was a SIP request.
Yeah, we had no backup on it, so the request was for something.
Okay.
200 grand, right? 200
Well,
grand.
yeah, I guess the question, but just to have the discussion while Peter mentions it is, it's pretty banged up. Is it worth building a foundation for? If we're going to be, are we going to be looking to replace, is it a permanent structure, or are we going to
Well, what was it?
replace it in a year or two or three?
Foundation and utilities, I mean, if they're going to continue to use it, even in the next, 6 months, year, 2 years, they could definitely use some utility work.
It's on blocks right now with an extension cord.
Yeah.
No, they need to do that.
I mean, I think.
Okay, I was just curious what the information
The
was.
thing about this, though, just real quick, my little way of explaining it.
Yeah.
This guy's not asking for Taj Mahal stuff, and I think we need to let him. He's
Yeah.
doing good with this.
You say that
I
like you
can't-
think I'm
no, no,
denying
I didn't
him.
say you.
He can't
I'm
have another
speaking
extension
into-
cord.
I'm
No more
speaking
extension
into
cords.
this airspace. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, we got a guy out there that's sort of thinking like a regular guy. This is really unusual to see this, and he's not asking for something that is, I need this new big huge facility to sit in a chair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we got to recycle a building that was, paper mache kind of, but it's got enough structure for what they need. I couldn't believe it when that got dragged out there.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
it sounds
I see
like-
this as positive.
It sounds like they're making do with what they've got, and they're looking to make it a little bit better. I don't.
Yeah, I
I
mean-
personally, as a person in this board, don't have an issue with it.
Yeah.
The reason I
It
asked,
wasn't, I know, it wasn't,
Yeah.
he kind of threw it in like, oh, well, this is no big deal. I understand that.
Yeah.
He did.
I
But
mean-
I'm just saying,
I mean, I think you'll get out of this most of the time if you stand back and take a look at it. The reason I ask a lot of the questions I ask is because it's our responsibility to know what the money's being spent on. Not to get into micromanaging a department, but there is an aspect of, is it a good value? And, you know, we're in a way, we're an oversight and evaluation committee. That's what we do. So I ask for both reasons, but I don't have an issue with this.
Yeah.
I just had no information in my recollection. Now that we've had a little more discussion on it, I understand what it was. So the latest on the, and Nat, thank you. The latest on the airport garage facility, I've been kind of following the airport commission meetings. They are pulling that, as indicated in the email we received, hoping for either a different type of a structure to reduce costs, because they don't have the funding otherwise.
well, he was pretty clear what he wanted with this building.
Yeah,
He said, this is just for parking, minimum,
yeah.
keep them out of the salt there, see you later.
Yeah, and I don't think that.
For what's left of their vehicles that are not inside.
Yeah, and I don't think he was happy with the price either. It's
Yeah.
just, or I know the airport commission wasn't, but it was just, this is not the time to be building. You know, you want to build when there's no one, when the economy is
God.
is crap, because
But-
that's when everybody wants to come in and do the work for half of what they're charging us now. Crap being a capital reinvestment. Come up with something.
It's a good back pedal.
Airport airfare lighting is double. Did they give any backup on that?
I mean, this is an AIP project, I believe.
So it'll be.
So this is 95.
It's 95.5, so it's
So we don't pay for it. Kind of.
federal government pays 90%. There's a
Sort of like our
state share.
tax rate.
But we borrow the whole amount, though, right?
We don't. We authorize the borrowing for the
Authorize.
whole amount, so that we have the ability to expend the funds, and then we repay it with the grant funds when they're received.
Okay.
And then we permanently borrow our. Or, a lot of times, what they have been doing now is they've gone to town meeting a couple times to pay their 5% share directly out of retained earnings, so that they have no long-term debt associated with that. But we do the authorization, so the project can start and get going.
I see how that's interesting.
Thank you, Brian. And then they were able to firm up more of their potential for funding from the FAA, correct?
I believe so.
So
yes.
we'll get that for our final.
I didn't get word about it.
From my interpretation of what they said was, I'm trying to do other work while I'm listening, so I'd not catch it all, but my interpretation was they've gotten some pretty good
better idea,
feedback
yeah.
on certain things.
I know they had the meeting. I don't know the exact outcome of that meeting.
Look,
but
this is just details. It's not
Right.
the end of the world if we don't have it, but it would be nice to be able to put together a complete package. And if I'm
Yes.
sitting down and I do have an opportunity to do a more comprehensive report, I would like to include information we have. That's all.
we'll confirm that that is the correct understanding, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The taxiway E project is bumped out. Is that bumped out just a year? Do you know, or they didn't?
I think it's sort of something that they.
Okay, thank you. And would you mind passing that to Richard, please? Richard, thank you very much. I think the last thing, and then we can clock out, is I don't have the final on the Wannacomet and the Sconset water tank maintenance, but we had some good discussion a couple meetings ago on that. I think the underlying questions, I think there was a couple underlying questions, and they revolved around two things. One is it a fault of the design or the construction that we have an epoxy coating failing within 5 to 6 years versus 10 to 20, depending on the manufacturer and the epoxy system. And then the other is there some way to be bringing this in-house?
Right, that's right.
And then I think the third was, is there, the one that I threw in there when I contacted Mark Willett through Brian, is whether when we go for the recoating, there's some way, what's the cost for an extended warranty? And then they can do a cost-benefit analysis as to whether it makes sense to be actually pursuing it. So typically, from what I understood, there's a 2-year warranty. I may be incorrect, but in reading the documents, the applicator has a 2-year warranty on the coating. Let's say for discussion purposes, it's 1. And what would they charge for a 2-year or a 3-year? Really where we need it is at the 7 and 10-year mark. But I was just curious what it would be and if they had looked at that. So I did add that to our questions. The other question I asked, and I understand has been answered, is what time of year they do it. Because one of the things we had been discussing, I believe Peter brought up, Peter M., was the concept of pulling this into retained earnings. And in that discussion, there was some question about, I should say, operating, and then the funding mechanism would be perhaps retained earnings. And there was some discussion about how that would work if the work spanned more than one operating year, one fiscal year. And so I was curious what the timing, the best time of the year is to do the work for discussion if we were to have doing it as an operating, under operating, and making sure that it was funded and completed within the same year. I would have that information. I've since I come to understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Wanacom and Sconset are looking actively at pulling this into operating.
They're actually looking at whether they can use retained earnings. I mean, anything like this would still be a capital project.
Right.
But they had initially indicated they would like to consider or
Funding
for
retained
consideration
earnings.
funding it with a borrowing authorization, and we went back and had conversations with them and asked if they could fund in whole or in part of the tank replacements via the retained earnings that they have to
Tank maintenance.
tank maintenance to mitigate the long-term borrowings. So they are working on that.
So my correct self-correction is the operating, I meant retained earnings.
Yes.
It comes out of operating in the sense that those are rate.
I mean, we recommended that they use retained earnings so that it would have no, and of course, it's ultimately up to them whether they want to recommend this, but we talked to them about using retained earnings so it had no direct impact on the rate for any future borrowings. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Christie?
I was just going to make a comment to say that going that route could trigger just better oversight and maintenance on their equipment, you know.
Thank you. And the other thing, just to close, Nat had asked about, the concern with the water company management is in the administration, the certifications, the insurance costs, and the potential for liability by having in-house staff who are not only properly trained and certified and carrying on with proper training and certification, but I think it was the liability is, you know, it's a in a sense it's a death-defying act. The scaffolding that's involved, there is some outlay there, certainly overcome by the cost to do the work by a subcontractor. But I think I would add to what comments I read is that the number of people involved to do the pressure washing and doing it quickly and getting it out of the way, as opposed to having perhaps one person who's capable of doing the work, it kind of geometrically expands the amount of time that's required. There's just some jobs that if you have 2 people doing them, they happen more quickly. If you have a crew of 5 doing them, they happen more quickly than if one person had done it. And I think that played into their determination that it just doesn't make sense to do it in-house. So that was the answer, as opposed to circulating emails.
I think there was a safety concern too, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Death is
Yeah.
pretty
I think that
terminal.
was not an avenue they wanted to get into. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I've got on the updates. Date of next meeting is Monday, December 18th. We'll be meeting Tuesday, the 19th, both at 8 a.m. I may not be here on a personal matter. It's very likely I will be off island, and I don't know if I will be back Monday. Libby will not be here. I have some concerns because it's the beginning of the ranking process, and if there's questions or concerns, but I'm sure you guys can, you'll have it well in hand. I did, excuse me.
Peter is going to facilitate.
Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Okay.
Are
So
you
Peter,
okay with this?
you can step
Yeah,
up.
we'll discuss maybe Sunday if you're not going to be here. Just let me know. And
Yep.
get it
Yeah, I should know later today whether I'll be traveling or not, so.
Yeah.
We'll just call you Alexander Haig.
Okay. Whatever that means.
No,
So
he's
you're
talking
too
about the
young.
plan.
He predates
You don't
him.
remember that? Come
Predates
on.
him.
I'm in charge now.
Yeah,
It's on the
thank you,
plane.
Nat.
Remember that? I'm in charge now.
Come on, Peter.
Your day.
That was really funny.
Mr. Chairman, so
Yes, Jason.
what are our goals for Monday and Tuesday? These are our last two big
Well,
days.
that's why I was concerned about not being here, because there's some things that I haven't had a chance to think through in terms of our goals. Like, I know what the goals are, but I haven't put them on paper. So my concern is that,
But by,
just with the subject matter being away, I'm not going to have a lot of time to be thinking about it, putting it on paper.
by Tuesday at 10, what do we want to see
We
done?
should be, by Tuesday at 10, we should be at a point where,
And is there any homework that we can do, or we need to do? Is there any other rankings you need from Nat or myself?
well,
or
yeah, thank you, Jason. Those are all good questions and give a little direction to my thoughts right now. I've got some other things on my mind. We need to have, first and foremost, before Monday, our rankings in. There are some that aren't in. I'll submit mine. And those include, if you want to go through and make an adjustment. For instance, an example would be the central office building for the school. Someone might have changed their mind. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, that one I would say yes, as much as I thought it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I guess it's not.
So that, no,
You know,
that's good.
Seemed simple before,
Yeah.
but
So those are that's an example of what you might want to change, but we need to get it to Julia tomorrow, by the end of the day tomorrow, so she can get it in into the worksheet.
what are we doing with the transportation now?
The
We
transportation
haven't done
stuff,
that technically. Can we bundle, separate,
okay,
without making her life miserable?
let me answer that, because I want to, I'm going to get back to Jason's question, but I'll segue. We do need to get some clarification from transportation on what can be moved up. It doesn't affect our rankings.
Correct.
It doesn't, I don't believe, affect our evaluation so much. If, for example, some things can't be moved up, or there's things that aren't involved in the capital project request process that dictate that certain things have to happen in later years, and it
Correct.
makes sense to me, it's not going to affect my ranking or our evaluation or recommendation. So we don't have to do anything else with those other than they're there. We have to, as a group, vote them up or vote it down.
As a group.
Right. As a matter of the integrity of the process, I need some more information just as to when those will be scheduled.
Because here's my point, and
Yeah, please.
Christie and I'm not sure if we're in disagreement or we're just sort of not figuring out what each other's thinking, because I care about what I care about what everybody thinks. I just want to try to clarify this is so unique, okay? Town meeting is voting for a placeholder. They're not voting for a milestone or pulpus. They're voting for a placeholder. Right, Brian? Yes. Or a... Okay. All right. Is that not PH? What is that in the... I'm going to put my glasses back on. Whatever one that is, right?
For
We
a
have to be
menu,
positive.
for a menu of work.
Right. We have to be positive. You got to think about the FinCom and what it's going to look like on the warrant. That's all I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
we're
with this.
all, but
I just don't want it to get gobbledygook.
Nat,
To get to
there's
the
no
next step. That's all I'm
flobbly
saying.
here. This is totally,
Okay.
all that we're talking about is internal.
I know, I
for us to
understand that,
process.
but I'm talking about ranking it as a group
Yes.
is better, I think, than getting into the weeds of each thing, because half of it may not happen.
Correct.
Or some of it.
Right. Well,
Okay. So you're good with me on that, Peter?
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's, and it's also going to be up to Libby
And weight drive.
and I mean, is the article simply going to say $15 million appropriation for road work? Because I think that's going to be difficult to
It's going to have
get
a bunch of
past.
stuff, but it
Yeah.
isn't going to,
It's
it
going to
could,
be a borrowing authorization. It will say to authorize the whole language.
Yeah.
But it's
I
not
ju-
going
I was
to
just making a
that
we're a
point.
funny place. We don't call articles at all that everybody's worried about getting called.
Well,
I'm worried about this getting
Christie, and then I'll still get back to
called
Jason's.
in a way from how it looks on the warrant.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's all.
There's a balance between it being too broad and
Yes.
too specific because
That's right.
there is a credibility matter here. We need to be, we're being forthright. There'll be maps and all the rest of it. But, okay, I think we got your point.
I was just going to say, I don't mind,
Good
I don't
point.
care which way, if it's bundled or if it's individual. I just, I think there was some good comments earlier about how that project should be managed going forward, and I just hope that the powers that be, keep that in mind, and that's how they manage it going forward. So, that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to circle back to Jason's question, which was what needs to be done Tuesday when we leave. Tuesday when we leave, I think we are going to need to have a very firm handle on what our draft of. Let me simplify it. I am going to need to know from you all what our ups and downs are going to be in a pretty good sense in order to finalize a draft, at least a draft of those for Libby over the break. That's the goal, and I understand
As a committee.
as a committee, and I understand that we may not have. It's not to say we have a final recommendation of what we think the funding sources should be, what we think individual comments should be on requests, but just kind of a up and down the list. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I'm not certain where that's going to turn out because we haven't really had discussion about that, and I'm not taking the lack of questions on certain topics or requests to mean that somebody's necessarily in favor or not. So we'll see where that shakes out. That I need to be able to report to Libby January 4th, and there may be some additional questions that we have in relation to that. I think, and also obviously we're going to need to have a discussion in a general sense, a good sense of the general philosophy of funding sources, how we feel we should be approaching this. Are we looking at a capital exclusion? We'll get into the difference between the capital and a typical exclusion and how the town has been doing that in the past Monday and Tuesday with Brian. But we're going to need to have funding sources buttoned up a little bit. We're going to need to have our final list of ups and downs buttoned up a little bit. And we're going to, from there, we'll be able to provide the information we need to Libby, and then we'll be able to move on to a recommendation. Does anyone have any thoughts or concerns or questions or comments on, or a different way you want to approach it, on ups and downs? I was thinking we'd just kind of go through it the way we did with a call if anyone had questions and whether we, or do you want to stick with the rankings? I'll sort them by ranking and we'll look at a cut list, or how do you want to, I'd like your feedback. And Jason had his hand up and then Christie.
Is it easier to come through like what each person doesn't want to recommend? Because it seems like there's more we want to recommend than we don't.
Yes.
So you've got 2, you got 1, I got 6, and we
Sure.
go through those and bang through them, and then, or maybe there's, I don't want to recommend this. We talk about it, and then there's something I'm on the fence about, and everybody comes, everybody does their homework before Monday, and we start that process. I'm thinking that way because it looks like we're going to recommend the majority of it, just from what I've been hearing for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Is that streamlining it?
I think it's not a bad idea. It saves the effort of having to sort and filter based on rank, which otherwise doesn't serve a purpose. If we didn't have enough money in our own minds or in the town's and Libby's initial recommendation, if she said, well, you have $40 million, I'm just using numbers, you have $40 million to request, but we're only going to fund 20. I think that that's where those rankings shine. That gives us an opportunity to help filter information. I think your idea is a good one, and I think that's how we should proceed.
Can we do that and have the rankings? Are you?
I think what I would suggest is we'll use a hybrid. So we'll go through much as we did with the. First, I want to thank everyone for being a little bit disciplined, or being very disciplined in this approach, because during the process we haven't gotten into, well, I'm going to vote for it or I'm not. We got into what's the information first with the department heads, and then we stuck to what's the information we need or we still don't have as we sat here and reviewed these. So I appreciate the fact we haven't kind of veered off into actually the recommendation side of the process. Now that we're going into the recommendation side, following what Jason had suggested, what we'll do is we'll follow the same procedure. We'll go top to bottom. If anyone wants to discuss it in terms of you're not going to vote for it, you call it. We'll have that, what I imagine is going to be a relatively short list. Whatever it turns out to be, we'll have discussions on those, and we will rely on the rankings in addition to our discussion to kind of inform our final vote. Does that work for you guys?
Will we have the rankings by Monday? Do you guys have all the information you need to even
Yeah.
put it all together?
Not yet, but
Well,
But we will by,
Friday, as long as we turn in Friday.
Yeah, as long as we get all the, if there's a few outstanding, as long as we get those in, then we can finish it up.
Because it's just, there's a few outstanding, and we need to put them in and then reprint the sheet, right?
There's a few outstanding, so OIH, I don't have most of you guys. Transportation missing a couple,
National Grid.
Yeah,
I'll send it around today.
okay, yeah, and I'm not looking to give you a,
I'll
s-
click through and see, you
what's,
know, what am I
yeah,
missing on
right.
here? And I know that's tedious, but it's kind of.
well, we're not trying to give you a Sisyphean task either. I mean, you need to have the information you need in order to do the job we're asking you to do.
Communicating with people, I think OIH is the only one that I realized that I don't think I have those.
And I'm guilty, I didn't put an OIH. And then I'll go in and
OH
correct my
came in the-
negatives.
Kind of later in the process, so.
Well, it sounds like it's a 0.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, hey, you know what?
Or could that be construed as 100?
We're not going to be using the rankings as strongly, as strong as a tool as we would be using if we didn't have enough money. But it's still important that we have them correct and we have them in, because if your rankings aren't in, you're skewing the results overall, and it could affect how other people make a recommendation if someone says, I don't want to recommend that. So you have to put it in. If you don't put in your recommendations, we'll have the sheet. You don't get to talk on the topic. It's like, it shouldn't be like schoolyard stuff, but,
It didn't get to this half of the table.
and then Christie. Yeah, I got stuck with me.
So the idea is I'll send it around again, and in case I get some new ones, new rankings, other people can make sure to fill in everything.
Okay.
Yep.
I misunderstood. I thought you were going to do that today.
She did it yesterday.
well.
No, I know, because we didn't.
The one I highlighted?
Yeah, I have it right.
So the only one that's not, there's, transportation's not in there, and so is, an OIH.
And
The
I know
National
I-
Grid is in here, and there's
There's not.
5 of us who haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
Haven't done it yet.
That's the part that didn't even really kind of get discussed, so that was one that,
Which one? Which?
the LA.
LA Peter.
The whole, like,
The Sparks Ave L8?
Pleasant Street.
No, the
L8,
Is
the
it
L8
Pleasant
meter.
Street thing?
1907, Pleasant Street Sidewalk, National Grid L8 project, design construction.
Oh, yeah.
We're here. Should we just quickly look at it? If people haven't ranked it, do you know why you haven't ranked it?
Matt, you got a bunch on stormwater, DPW.
And I turned.
No.
Well, don't worry, this is from yesterday.
Right, so those ones are covered.
Just bear with me one sec. You guys.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, can I just make
Yes,
a quick
please.
comment, because I know this might change some people's thought process. 2 of the projects on sewer may be changing. I did mention this to the board last night during the presentation. So there's a project here, it's called Surfside Roads Area Sewer System Improvements. It's listed as $5.1 million. And there's also a note that this may have to increase for design. We were notified, I think it was Monday, I have to go back and look, but it might have been Monday, that this project has made it on the intended use plan for the state revolving fund. So it would be eligible for the either 0 or 2% loan. The 5.1 is the actual estimate of what the state revolving fund authorization would be for. They don't pay for design. We have talked to Weston and Sampson preliminarily, and they said design would probably be about $580,000, which we would have to fund on our own. So, and we're going to have another conversation today about this. So just to let everybody know, we will more than likely propose that we increase the 5.1 to probably 5.6 or maybe slightly above that to do that project. And I'll explain some of the mechanics about SRF in 1 second and to give you a better clarity why we may be making a change.
This is the Surfside Road area sewer system improvements?
Yes, that's what is known as downstream capacity from the project, the Nantucket Harbor Shimo
Yes.
plus parcel areas, okay?
Yeah, that's the bypass going down.
Right, so this is, the second one is, it's project number 19-008, Surfside Wastewater Treatment Facility Phase 2 upgrades. We had budgeted $1.1 million for this, and then there's $6.5 million in fiscal 20, okay? This project also qualified for the intended use plan for SRF funding. This would require, the way SRF funding works is you need to have your funding authorized by June 30th to be able to move forward with it. So we've talked internally, so this would essentially require us to move about just over $7 million into this year to authorize funding for this project in order to meet SRF, okay? Or what we can do is we could break it into two parts, but if you don't have the full funding, then we go back and we ask for reauthorization of the remaining funding from SRF. And, you know, I'm not a big proponent of splitting up stuff in that manner. So we have talked internally about reducing this authorization to what the design allocation would cost, because that is not eligible for funding, and then we would go back and reapply for the full funding for fiscal 20 and do that reauthorization, because we were talking about whether we really wanted to put another $8 million into this before you instantaneously, because we just found out recently that it had qualified for that, and we had been planning on phasing it before. So I am meeting again, like I said, with Weston and Sampson today to talk about what our options are relative to the treatment plant facility. We will be changing the 5.1 to probably either 5.6 or 5.7 million, because, and the rationale for that is we've already put basically 90% of the project in front of you. We didn't realize we were going to get funding for it, so that would be the small add there, just to kind of give some. Those are a couple small changes that have. Weston and Sampson, we told them to go ahead and file the paperwork. We weren't sure if we would qualify, but they rated substantially high enough that they fell within the categories of being able to qualify. So.
Okay. And
Okay.
just clarification, the point of information, the Surfside wastewater treatment phase, do you think that number may change to approximately what?
If we go the route that we had internally discussed, the 1.1 million would be reduced to probably 500,000 or 600,000. So we would authorize design phase money for that, and then come back with a number for in fiscal 20 and reapply for SRF funding.
Okay. Because the note says increase, not decrease.
Right. Well, see, because if we increased it, we would be bringing all projected $7.5 million ahead.
I got you. Okay.
And so we're talking about whether we want to do that or whether we want to just allocate the design money, because that's not eligible anyway.
Okay. That's great. That makes sense.
Does it have risk of pushing out a year?
Based on the rankings that I saw, I don't know that Weston and Sampson doesn't believe there'd be a super risk to doing it. That's one of the things we want to talk about today, to see whether or not. And one of the questions I had is, can we extend the authorization so we wouldn't have to do it? But that's some more details we have to work out. So,
Okay.
but I want to bring those to your attention.
Thank you. Well, yeah, so, and those will reflect in our Monday final?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so back
To
on
the extent possible, if we have all of the mechanics worked out, yes, for Monday morning. But it'll be refined and figured out before you have to
and
make
you'll be
your
able to put a
recommend-
target, at least in the
Yes.
comments, if it's not adjusted
Yes,
in the
that's-
actual dollar?
Yes, that's
column.
correct.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Just because later on and over the break, looking at this, I'd rather rely on your notes than mine.
Absolutely.
Surfside, we covered National Grid L8 feeder. So my notes indicate that there was no comments made because there was a question as to how the progress with National Grid on their side of the equation. There was just some open questions with respect to what we were going to be able to do and when. So we didn't actually have a discussion on it other than, this is, we're trying to be efficient and effective and and do the work at the same time. So I think we don't really know anymore at this point, other than we're trying to be efficient and effective and do the work at the same time. The open question is it something National Grid's going to be able to do during the fiscal year, and is this something we're pursuing? At the time that we reviewed it, that was a big open question.
We can reach out to David and get see if we have updated information, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
It may just be simply, yes, it's a go, or it's not because they're going to do it the following, I don't know.
Yep, we'll try to get more clarification for you.
Okay, so that's open. So I'll add that to open, and we'll, just a quick email to, and Nat, is that better to Mike or to Andrew on the questions of just, moving up a design a year and seeing?
I think Mike can handle all that. I mean, Andrew's not here for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But Mike is, I think between Mike and what he's been working with Rob about too.
Okay,
He can answer those questions.
I just don't want to have it take longer than it needs
There's
to.
also some stuff where there's, like a pull-off is getting put in now because they're doing all this other work. Like it's part of the Richmond decision. I mean, there's a lot of mix and match and plug and play stuff in this that is in here, some isn't. Like the Macy's Airport Road, Old South fix, that's not in here. They're paying for that, but that's part of it. It's just not on this list. It's just,
I'm listening. I'm listening. I
we have
get you.
to get approval for the landowner to kind of donate a corner, and there's a lot of other things, but that's going to happen too.
So are you saying that that's going to be a separate ask at a later date?
It's not.
Or it's in the
sort of-
15 million, but it's not
something
listed here?
It's not in, we don't have to pay for that.
So it wouldn't be here.
It's not in here, but there's an improvement, I'm just saying, part of the corridor improvement, but it's not actually on there. It might be in that packet though, in that one.
Okay, that's helpful
In
too.
fact, it is in that one, but anyway.
All right.
But I think Mike can answer the questions, yeah.
I'm just going to email him, and I'll CC you, Brian, so you're in the loop.
Okay.
I probably just would have been easier to do this.
That's fine. I mean, he's been the one that we've dealt with on all the Old South Corridor Road improvements anyway, so I think
Okay.
that's the most logical place to go.
Okay. There being no other business,
No.
so moved. Thank